Hi guys, my name is Genesis. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my testimony and how God basically saved me. Um, so just going to start off with my story about me, how I grew up. So basically, I have a pen because I get anxious. So not anxious, I get nervous. When I'm talking because I'm not a great communicator. I am more of just a quiet person, so I need something to like fidget around with. Um, so basically, my background is I grew up in a very religious home. I grew up Christian, we were raised in church. Our life revolved around church. I can remember ever since I was small. My parents served in church. My grandparents from my dad's side served in church. And, we were just raised in church. And in the church that we would go to, it was very strict. I don't really know what the word was for that kind of church, but it was really strict. My mom, she couldn't wear makeup. Everything had to be like very natural. Sorry, I need to lock my car. She had to be like very natural. She had to wear like the long skirts and wear like the long blouses. Like everything needed to be covered. Same with my dad. He had to dress a certain way, I think, as well. We didn't grow up doing things of this world. My parents felt like they needed to do that, and honestly, I really am grateful for that kind of experience because it has kind of just linked up to how everything has happened in my life. So basically, when I grew up, I didn't grow up hearing music on the radio. We couldn't hear any kind of secular music, which is music that was just not sacred. So I grew up just hearing worship songs my whole life. I grew up with very strict parents, very strict. There's a guy coming. So I just grew up with very strict parents, and the church that we went to, we just had strict practices. So I was just hearing like worship music, like I was saying. I couldn't really watch certain things. My parents would filter out a lot of the things that we would watch or that we would see or that we would hear, because God says to be careful of what you see and what you hear, and that kind of thing. And I understand that now, but as a little kid I didn't really understand that. I grew up thinking like, why do we live this way, and I would go to public schools. I would see how all the other kids were living and all their other families, and they were just nothing like our family. And but I also knew like that's how God wanted us to live, but I just didn't understand why, and we were never really explained why. So we grew up just not as every other kid was growing up. And I remember watching like Bible Man and Veggie Tales, because they had like Veggie Tales of biblical stories. And then I would watch like Prince of Egypt, like just those classic movies. I remember watching Passion of the Christ when we were small as well. Prince of Egypt and Joseph's Dreams, or something like that. It's a movie. And all of our life was basically going to church and trying to live the way that Jesus wants us to live. And that was kind of my whole life, from when I was small to basically when I was like 13. I remember when I went into high school, and during that time frame we weren't really going to church anymore. Things were just happening in my family, and we stopped going to church. We stopped living the way that we used to live. And it was just different, this time around, I think, because we were just getting older, and things started happening in my family that we just didn't know as kids. And I just remember when I was in high school, we didn't go to church. We didn't do anything. We were kind of just living our lives. I don't remember doing anything out of like what I already knew. Like, yeah, I would hear, secular music, because it was around me in high school. Or I would go to, I was just living life as all the other kids. I remember, I think it was either 7th or 8th grade when I first started actually participating in things that other kids were participating in. I remember we didn't even celebrate Halloween. I couldn't dress up or anything. And 7th grade was the first time that I participated in it because I told my grandma that I wanted a costume. I wanted to participate in dressing up for Halloween and taking my costume to school. And basically my whole life was just kind of just based on being religious, not really doing things that other kids were doing. We just lived a very different lifestyle. And for me, when I went into school, like my whole early education was really, really hard because I was bullied a lot. I obviously didn't know, what other kids were doing. I wasn't into a lot of things that other kids were into, so it was hard for me to just relate and make friends. That and, my family, we were always moving kind of like city to city, like moving in different places, so I never really stayed in the same school as well. And so all these things were happening. I was bullied, I just wasn't secure. I was asking myself all these questions when I was smaller, like, why are people mean to me? Why do we live this way? These people don't live this way. They get to do Halloween, I don't get to do Halloween. And as a kid, all these things were going through my mind, and I never expressed that. I would kind of just like keep it to myself. And I just knew that my parents were gonna just say like, no, and this is how you're supposed to do it, you're supposed to live, you're supposed to obey us and listen to us. And my parents were very strict. I wasn't allowed to even have a boyfriend. Like, if I had a boyfriend, I would get a whipping. Like, I wasn't able to do anything, but for the right reasons. I just didn't know that it was the right reasons before. No one had explained that to me. But I did know that God wanted us to live a certain way. I just didn't understand why he wanted us to live a certain way. And so when I started growing up, a lot of things happened. Like 7th grade, that was the first time I participated in Halloween. That was the first time I had actually made an actual friend, and it wasn't even by my doing. This, my friend, she's the one who came up to me and was like, oh, I like your costume, and she was just telling me this, we still talk to this day, and she was telling me the story of like when she first met me and how why she came up to me, and it was because I had a pumpkin costume. And that was the first time I'd actually made an actual friend. And we honestly just stayed friends. I remember I was sad for a lot of my life because I was on the chunkier side. I was weird. I wasn't doing what normal kids were doing. I didn't really want to participate in anything, really. I was very to myself. I was very quiet. Just a lot of things, that kind of go with that. And I would always be bullied. And so when 7th grade came, I was like, oh, like that was like a little light bulb for me. I was like, oh, like I finally have a friend. And I was like, you know what, maybe if I was just prettier, maybe if I was just a little bit skinnier, then I would make more friends. So that summer I ended up giving myself an eating disorder. I literally stopped. I remember telling my mom that I just wanted to eat carrots and celery, and I was like, and I will not eat anything else unless you get me carrots and celery. And that's literally what I did. I stuck it out, and if she didn't buy it, I wouldn't eat. And so that became a problem. And she's like, you know what, you need to eat, like I can't believe you, like all that stuff. And she didn't understand what I was going through. I was honestly very depressed as a kid. I couldn't make friends. I was very sad. I just didn't understand why we were living the way that we were living. And a lot of questions were just being asked. I was a kid, and no one liked me. Everyone would, like, not everyone, but like people would tell me like, oh, you're fat and ugly, or things like that. And it just really stuck with me a lot. So I was very insecure growing up. I remember that summer I had given myself an eating disorder. So first of all, I started just eating like literally carrots and celery. I kid you not. And then my mom got really, really mad at me. She's like, you know what, you need to eat. Like, I'm not letting you do this. I'm not doing this anymore. So I was trying to figure out ways to where I can still lose weight and not be eating, basically. And so I would start eating. So I would eat like a normal person, and then every time I got the chance, or every time I ate, basically, I would make myself throw up. And I would do it in a way that no one knew what I was doing. So after I would eat a meal, I would be like, oh, I'm gonna go take a shower, or I'm gonna go sing in the bathroom. And that's kind of when it all started happening. So I remember that summer I had lost so much weight. I had gotten, it got scary. And basically my parents found out that I was um doing that, that I was like throwing up and stuff. And I got a talking to, and they told me, why are you doing this? And I just told them, like, it's because I was fat and I was ugly, and I needed to do that. Like, I didn't have any other way. Like, they didn't really understand really where I was coming from, I feel, at that point in time. But I had already lost all the weight, and I was like, you know what, I'm fine. So 8th grade came, and I made a lot of friends 8th grade, and I was actually really, really happy in 8th grade because, people started talking to me, people started actually liking me and wanting to be my friend. And I just saw a shift of like, oh, okay, like, let me just fit in. Like, I can fit in now. Like, I'm skinny, I'm pretty, people like me, people are talking to me, people want to be my friend, and I'm just gonna do anything that I can do to fit in with everybody and to be around everybody. And so that's kind of how my life began. So once I went into high school, I actually, no, in 8th grade I actually had my first boyfriend. And boyfriends were a big no-no for my parents still, because we still had like this, we still carry the same values and morals. And I was still just listening to worship songs when I would get home, and like, I just lived that life at home, and with my family. But when I was out of home, I was kind of trying to fit in with everybody. And I had my first boyfriend in 8th grade, and I remember I was so scared that my parents would find out, because my parents would go through our backpacks, they would go through our notebook, they would go through anything to find anything, and we would always get in trouble if I was like either passing notes to my friend, and like I would always get in trouble for literally everything. And so I was very scared, so I never told them about my boyfriend. And then when 9th grade came, that relationship broke off, and it was like kind of in a good way because I was still scared of my parents. So through 9th and 10th grade, that's when I remember things started really, really changing. Like 8th grade had changed for me, and then 9th and 10th grade really changed. And I think we were just getting older, like me and my siblings and just our family, and like we stopped going to church. And I feel like in that moment, I think things were changing. Things just felt different in our family. And we stopped going to church, and like sometimes I would tell my parents like, oh, why don't we go to church anymore? And I was like, oh, can we go to church this Sunday? And it just would never happen. Like, none of us would wake up, and we just stopped living life how we were. And I think that's when literally the devil, like the enemy, attacked us. Because I remember 9th and 10th grade were just like, they were just okay. There was things happening, and we tried our best to just be okay, but nothing was really okay. And that's when it became concrete in my junior year, when one day I literally came home. And mind you, with this old way that I was living, I was like very scared of my parents. I was a very, very much a goody two shoes. I was a straight A student. I was always doing sports. I was always doing something school related, because I really actually enjoyed school. But then when junior year came, that was probably the worst year. Like, I started off already iffy and rocky, and things were just happening in my family. And then I remember just one day, basically kind of in the middle of the first semester of school, junior year, I came home one day after my practice, because I would always come home very late. I remember it was dark, and I came home, and my whole life that day just turned upside down. I came home, and I remember seeing my cousin there. I remember seeing my family, like all my siblings, and then my mom and dad, and I think my grandma was there as well, if I can recall that correctly. And I just remember this day where it just felt like I was in a movie. It was so chaotic, and I was like looking at my cousin like, what is going on? And he was just like, Genesis, like, just sit down, like, I'm here for you, like, I bought you guys food, like, sit down and please eat, and let me explain to you what's happening. And I already kind of was puzzling everything together. Things were already happening before that. And then I just hear my mom like telling my dad to leave. And I was just like that just like clicked. And then my cousin started telling me like, oh yeah, like, your mom wants to divorce your dad. And you know, things are just happening. Genesis says, I'm so sorry and I'm going to be here for you. And I just remember, like, I was just so in my head when he was telling me this, and I was just like, everything was happening so much at once, and I was just like thinking to myself, I was like, oh my goodness, like my life is a lie. Like my life, like what? Like I thought we were perfect. I thought, you know, like we have this like Christian family, like we were raised in church, and like all these things just started racing in my mind. And I was like, no, like this literally can't be happening. And like I find out that my mom is actually seeing someone at this time, like seeing someone else from a different place. And you know, all these things were being exposed, all these like lies in the past and the history of, you know, our family and my parents and all these things. And I was like, we were literally just living a lie. Like it started making me question whether God was real or not, whether the life that I was living, whether it was real or not. And I had a huge identity crisis. I had a huge, just like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know if anything was even real at this point. And that was kind of just my life, and it just took the turn for the worst. You know, my mom was seeing somebody else, and she kind of traumatized us with that. I remember that day when she was telling my dad to leave, my brother left with my dad, and it was just me and my younger sister because my older sister had moved out at a very young age with her boyfriend because of the family situation, because of the family problems. And it's just, you know, a lot of things that had happened in our past. So it was just a different dynamic. And I remember it was just me and my younger sister. And during these months, I remember it was like 2 or 3 months probably that my dad had left, you know, and it was just me and my younger sister. And my mom would literally leave to go see this other person because this other person was like located in Vegas. She would leave us, you know, days, and she would just leave us with no food, with no anything. And I just remember like having to take care of my sister. Sorry, this is like very, very vulnerable for me. Having to take care of my sister and just like step up. And I had never kind of like, I just never thought anything like that was ever possible in our family. And I remember my mom would leave, and she would leave us with just $20. And sometimes she would leave like 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, what am I gonna do with $20 for these days, you know? And I have to feed me and my sister. And so there was days where like I wouldn't eat. There was days where I would just like, you know, make sure that she was well taken care of and she was fed and she was okay. And I kind of just like shielded her from a lot of things. And I threw myself in the fire. I threw myself to figure out the truth and just stand in the front of the lines, basically battling, you know, this situation. And I remember my mom, she didn't care. She didn't care to really take care of us. I don't really know what was going through her mind, but obviously she was hurt. There was things that she'd never talk about, things that happened in the past with my parents and stuff like that. So it was kind of coming out, like everything was kind of being exposed and coming out. And so she was with this person, and then she didn't even pick up a job or anything. She was relying on my dad to pay for our apartment when my dad was trying to just survive on his own and try to get a place for his own because he had my brother with him and stuff. And my mom didn't even pick up a job. I remember we got kicked out of our apartment because we didn't pay rent for a couple of months. And we ended up having to go live with my grandma, which was like my mom's mom. And she would kind of do the same thing. She would kind of just like leave us there. And we weren't going to school. We were taken out of school when this happened. We were taken out of school. And you know, for us, it was just really, really difficult. We didn't want to go back to school. So, we wanted to be homeschooled. And so, like, yeah, we wanted to be homeschooled. We were taken out of school. Those 2 months, we didn't go to school. We were just taken out of school. We were going to be homeschooled. So we were trying to get into a program. For me, that program just didn't go through, but for my siblings, it did. And I remember when we got kicked out of the of our apartment and we lived with our grandma, the same thing was happening. My mom would still leave. She would still go see this other person, you know, and we would tell her, like, Mom, like, take care of us. Like, how you not love us? You know, we would tell her all these things, and just kind of everything went out the door, and it was just very hard. And even my grandma would be like, what is wrong with her, you know? And like, no one was taking care of us. We were kind of just doing life by ourselves and on our own, and I was taking care of my sister as much as I possibly could. And I remember at one point during this time, we weren't going to school, and the program didn't go through for me, but it went through for my younger sister. So she was being homeschooled, and I was just still not going to school. And I was asking my mom if she can place me in the homeschool that was, you know, there when we were living with my grandma. And she didn't do that either. So I had to ask my older sister, because my older sister ended up coming back because she was having relationship problems, so she came back to live with us as well during that time. And I had asked my sister and my grandma to put me in the school nearest to us in high school. And I remember going to that high school, and I had to redo my whole semester because I was taken out early and my credit didn't go through. So I had to redo that whole semester, and I just didn't even want anyone to be in my space. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to be around anyone. I just really wanted to lay low, because life was just treating me not good. Like, I was just having the whole identity crisis. I was struggling already with like depression and my eating disorder and a lot of things that I was just struggling with already. And it just heightened over the years, and it just got worse over the years. And so when I went to the school, I was just trying to live as if, you know, my life was okay, nothing was wrong with my life, everything was good, you know. And I just kind of kept going like that. I kind of just kept moving forward because I knew that I needed to be strong, I needed to move forward. And I did not have any kind of time or place to just heal. I didn't even know how to move on, trying to just heal, trying to just like get better. Like, I really did not know what to even do. And so like I was just struggling. And I remember not really wanting to make friends or anything, but then I remember seeing a person that I knew from my middle school, and we ended up becoming friends, and that was like our friendship. And for a while he had honestly made me feel like I actually had someone to talk to, because I remember not having anyone to talk to. I kind of cut off relationships with everybody. And at one point during that time, I was literally just living with my grandparents, and my mom had actually gone back with my dad during this point at some point. And you know, my siblings ended up moving back with them, and they got like a new place, and I couldn't, you know. My dad was like, come with us, like, we got a new place, you know, we're gonna fix this, like, we're gonna be a family again. And I was like, no, I'm not going back with you guys. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. So I stayed with my grandparents. For a while, on my mom's side. And I think I stayed there for a good amount of time. And then you know, I had my friend there, so I was doing okay. I was doing well. And I just wanted to stay there. And I remember my dad was just so mad because he wanted me to come home. He's like, you can't make these decisions on your own. And I would fight my parents all the time. I'd be like, you guys don't deserve anything. You guys don't deserve me. You guys don't deserve anything. I hate you guys. I hate you guys for everything you've done, for everything I had to go through, for everything I had to see. I just had so much anger like built up towards them, towards my situation, towards my life, towards God. I remember in these moments, I literally resented God. I hated God. I was like, why would you do this to me? Like, what have I done? I've literally tried to obey you. I've tried to live my life like you. I've tried to do everything. I've tried to be a good person, and you just give me this life? Like, what? Why would you do that? Like, I had so much anger and so much resentment. I had so much just happening to me. I was struggling with depression. I was struggling with anxiety. I was having so many insecurities. I was just struggling, and I struggled like this for such a long time. And I kind of just like kept pushing and kept pushing and kept concealing it and kept like pushing it inside and pushing it inside until I just kind of, I couldn't, you know, like, yeah. So I had my friend. Moving forward, we ended up dating, and he ends up, you know, knowing my situation, what kind of happened, and yeah, knowing my family situation. And he was kind of coming from the same situation as well. And it was, I think that was just something that we bonded over, because we had similar situations. You know, we were kind of by ourselves at one point, and our family kind of abandoned us, or we just didn't want to be near them. And so we went through a lot too in our relationship. Our relationship was always off and on. And I could say it was because of me, because I was struggling, because I was depressed, because I was struggling with a lot of things. I was struggling with suicidal thoughts, and I just wanted to be isolated a lot of my life. I was just trying to just heal and trying to just move forward, but sometimes I would fall into these deep depressive episodes, these days where I just didn't want to be here anymore. So I was constantly fighting, because I knew that I needed to be here, that I needed to be there for my siblings, because I did see them. You know, I did see them when my parents moved in together. They all moved in together. My dad actually forced me to go see them, and so I made sure that I always went to go see them. And life just ended up just kept hitting me from left and right and left and right. And you know, the relationship I was in, it was very difficult. And I tried fighting for that. I tried fighting for my life. I tried fighting for my family, and it was honestly too much weight to bear. And so I moved in with my family at one point, because my dad, oh no, I moved in with my grandparents, from my dad's side, and I was there for a while. And I was doing okay. You know, it wasn't the best, but it was better than going back with my family. And that's kind of where I was at that point. I was like, you know what, this is better than actually moving in with my family, because I was not talking to my parents at all. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to look at them. I didn't want anything to do with them. And I tried to just stay away from them as much as I possibly could, because I was so hurt, because I was so hurt by everything. And I had just seen way too much that I didn't want to see anymore. I didn't want anything to do with them. But that was hard. And my dad had forced me to go move back in with them. And for a while, I just didn't really even talk to them. You know, I would tell them, like, I'm just here for my siblings. Don't talk to me. And, you know, that kind of just, you know, at one point I was like, you know what, maybe this could work. Maybe this is it. This is where it's fine, you know. And it was okay for about, I just want to say, a year. And then I was still, you know, with my boyfriend. You know, he was living with us at one point because of his situation. And you know, there was just a lot of things that we were going through. I remember we had both got jobs, and life was just moving okay. You know, we had both got jobs. I remember, you know, we were just always together, and like that was the thing. And everything was kind of okay for a little bit, until it started not being okay again. It was like my parents and stuff, and I had started another job. And you know, my parents were going through financial struggles, and with my job that I was saving a lot of money, I would, you know, pay for bills for them. You know, we wouldn't have food, or we wouldn't have electricity, or electricity and food. And I would be the one stepping up, and I would always be the one stepping up for my family, because I cared about my family and I cared about my siblings. And even though everything that we've been through, I was like, you know what, like, I just need to do this. Like, this is my family. This is the only family. You only get one family, guys. I'm like, so this is the only family that I have. So I need to take care of it, you know? And that's kind of where I was in the situation. And, you know, a lot of things had just happened. So basically, fast forward, I get this new job, and I'm making money. Things are going well, but things were well because I was pushing them down. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna pretend like everything's perfect, like I have a happy life, that we have a happy family again. And little did I know it was only gonna get worse. And so it was getting worse, and it was affecting me. And because it was affecting me, it was affecting the relationship that I was in as well. I wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy with anything, and I was trying to be, and I was trying to survive. I was trying to be happy. I was trying to live a life that I knew that I deserved, and it just was not happening. And I remember during this time, like it was just horrible, because I was just fighting. I was just fighting to just be okay. And I remember breaking off the relationship, and I was just going through it. I was just crying every day. I was struggling with my depression again. I was struggling with my anxiety. I was always crying, and no one knew what was happening. Like, not even my parents would be like, "Oh, why are you crying?" And I just would say like, "Oh, I think I'm just sad. Like, I think I'm just sad, you know?" And I didn't know that just like my depression was just getting worse. Um, I was getting like suicidal thoughts, and I was very much struggling around this time, you know, when I was 18 and the relationship was going bad. And I actually had a friend in my workplace, and I would kind of tell him everything, he would tell me everything. And he was someone that I felt like I can just open up to and just trust. And you know, I didn't tell him about my family situation, but I would tell him like, you know, certain problems or certain things that are happening, and how do I fix this. And you know, like I genuinely thought like he genuinely was my friend. And during this time that our relationship, I broke off the relationship. I just couldn't do it anymore. I was so unhappy, and he was kind of the only thing that was making me like laugh and making me feel like a little bit better. And I remember getting into a relationship with him, and knowing in my heart that it wasn't right, and that I really didn't even want to be with him. And that caused a lot of pain too. And I remember breaking off that relationship and going back to the relationship that I was in. And it was very difficult. And you know, I'd hurt that person a lot, but because I was hurting, and I didn't know how to tell people that I was hurting, even like the other person, you know, I didn't tell anyone anything about my family situation, about how I felt, about what I was dealing with. I kind of just would always put on like a face of just like, I'm happy and everything is good and everything is fine and my life is okay. I'm strong. I'm this, I'm that. And I wasn't. I was not any of that. I wasn't strong. I wasn't anything. And I remember during this time, I was really, really, really struggling. And my parents, their situation was happening again, where my mom didn't want to be with him, and things were just happening again. And like, it had gotten so bad, and I kept going in and out of this relationship. And because I was so depressed, because I was trying to isolate myself, because I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I didn't even want to be here on this earth anymore. You know, I was just going through so much, and I was trying to hold on to everyone and everything, and I couldn't. And during this time too, with my old job, you know, we would have parties, we would have that kind of thing, and you know, everyone was drinking, everyone was smoking, and I started drinking a lot. I started smoking with people, I started smoking weed, and like I started drinking a lot from the age of 20. And I had never drank anything. I had never done anything. Like I said, I was a goody two shoes. Things that I thought that I would never do as a little girl, I started doing, because I started living worldly, because I resented God. I had so much resentment, and I didn't want to listen to him. I didn't want to live the way that he wanted us to live anymore. I was kind of just like, F everything. I don't even care. Like, I'm just gonna do life by myself. Life already sucks. Life already sucks so bad. Nothing in my life is going good anyway, so I'm just gonna just do whatever. And that's what I did. And I gave myself a drinking problem. You know, I started drinking a lot. I started drinking almost every day. And no one knew that for a long time, until I told my sister about it. my younger sister, obviously she wasn't like super young, she's only 2 years younger than me, so I was 21, she was probably like 18. And I had told her that I was struggling, and it was very evident that I was struggling at this point. I was crying a lot. I didn't want to be here anymore. I needed help, basically. And my parents saw that I needed help. They didn't know what I was going through. But I was going through a lot. I just had a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of things that I went through in my life that I don't wish upon anybody. And yeah, that I don't wish upon anybody because it was horrible. You know, I was doing everything that I possibly could to escape. And if anything, that made just everything heighten more. You know, like I was drinking a lot. I was smoking. I was going to parties. I was going to clubs. I was living just so like not good. I was not happy in any of it. You know, I was just trying to find a way to escape, and there was literally like I just wasn't escaping. Like if anything, that brought even more destruction, even more everything into my life. It just heightened my depression, it just heightened my suicidal thoughts. And you know, my parents actually started seeing that, where they were just like, okay, she's really, really not okay. You know, I would even be drinking at home. I'd be passed out at home almost like a lot. Like a lot. I would be passed out all the time. And I would just drink and like things were just not okay. And I wasn't okay. Nothing in my life was okay. And I remember, you know, we rekindled the relationship that I was in. And then I broke it off again, and I just stopped talking to him because I was just going through it, and I didn't know how to explain what I was going through or how I felt, or just a lot of things about the relationship, about my life, about my family, about me. You know, I never had the chance to just kind of sit with myself and process things. You know, I kind of just kept moving forward, and that's one of the things that I knew that I needed to just kind of go away from everyone, because I needed to process things. I needed to have my own time to heal from everything, because you know, things were just always happening between these years. I'm 23 years old, and you know, my life hasn't stopped hitting me with certain things ever since I was like 14, 15 years old. And so yeah, I had the drinking problem. I was drinking a lot. I was just not doing good in any kind of way, shape, or form. And I remember the last straw was, you know, my parents were trying to separate again. My mom was seeing someone else, someone different from the first person, and you know, things were just getting really, really bad. I had a baby sister when they had first rekindled or trying to fix their relationship. My baby sister came, and like I have my baby sister now, and like I needed to take care of her. I needed to make sure that she didn't go through the same things that we went through. And so I was constantly just fighting. I was constantly fighting with my parents. And at this point, you know, before I had rekindled the relationship with them, I'm like, this is my only family. This is the one family that God gave me, so I need to take care of them. And at this point, I was like, you know, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I can't take the pain anymore. I can't take care of everyone anymore. I can't even take care of myself. And like things were just happening a lot. And I remember just cutting everyone off. I cut my parents off. I stopped talking to them. I told them to stop talking to me, especially my mom. I told her, don't ever talk to me ever again. And I was like, I hate you, and don't ever talk to me ever again. I was like, I'm never gonna talk to you ever again. And I just treated her literally like trash. And with my dad, I just stopped talking to him because everything that was said was literally about my mom. And I couldn't. I was like, I hate her. Stop talking about her. I can't do this. And I stopped talking to him because of that. And I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to be around him. You know, my siblings, like, they were going through their own thing as well. And, you know, I was just kind of being the punching bag for everyone. And I couldn't do that anymore. I didn't even have a relationship with my older sister because she was kind of mad at me, like, for a long time because of what my mom had said about me, how I, would almost like basically fight her, and I would never listen to her, and I was just the bad kid, in her eyes, and so my sister kind of had that on me too. She thought that I was lying about the things that we had been through, and I was like, why would I lie? Like, why would I lie about those things, and she just didn't want to believe me in any instant. But then she started figuring out things on her own at a older age, like during this time, and I just remember she was the only person that I could talk to, because the icing on the cake was the person that I was in a relationship with telling me that they were like seeing someone else, even though I was like, even though like I thought we were like gonna get back together, I thought all these things, and like we were friends, and we were like having sex, and just like things I just didn't understand, and like honestly I was just like very dumb. But there was a lot of sins and things that I was doing that wasn't right in any kind of way, and I was just not living the way that God wanted us to live. And so when this person told me that they were seeing someone else, it just like kind of rocked my world. That was like the icing on the cake for me. And I remember just like calling my sister, and I was like, I'm like so sad, I don't want to be here anymore, like life is too hard, I don't even have anyone to talk to, because my siblings were being like really really mean to me, and like my parents, I didn't have a relationship with them because I cut them off, and like this person was the only person that I had left because I didn't have a relationship with my older sister. And like I go to her and I'm telling her, I'm like, you don't believe me, like, I know you don't have a relationship, but I just don't, I don't know who else to come to, I don't know what else to do. And from there on, I just remember I had to go to like my friend's, I think it's her niece's birthday party, and this is happening, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like how am I even gonna go? Like my eyes are so swollen, like, because whenever I cry a lot, guys, like my eyes get super swollen. So I was like, how am I gonna go to this party with my eyes swollen? And she's calling me, she's like, where are you while this is happening? And I just didn't text her until I was like calmed down and I had stopped crying, and me and my sister were talking and stuff, and she's like, no, like don't do that, like I'm here for you, like I'm sorry, I didn't know like you were going through so much. And yeah, basically I had to tell everyone what I was going through and what I was doing and how I was feeling, and it sucked so bad because it hurt so bad. And I remember talking to my friend about everything, and she's known me ever since 7th grade. That's my 7th grade pumpkin friend, guys. So she's seen me through everything. She knows kind of everything about me, and she just seen me through everything, and she knows my situation, my family situation. And like she was the one who literally told me, you know what, like just stop, just forget about it. I'm so sorry, like what you're going through, you've always been going through stuff, and I'm so sorry that your life is this way, but I think that you should just go to church. And I was like, you know what, yeah, I already had lost everything that was so important to me. And I was like, yeah, okay. She's like, yeah, I'll go to church with you, let's just go to church, I think that church would be good for you. And I was like, okay. And I remember just feeling so guilty, feeling so ashamed, feeling so ugly with myself, feeling like I wasn't worthy of going back to church, that I wasn't worthy of going back and running back to Jesus and living my life the way that I should have lived it. I didn't even have clothes to go to church in. All I had were like crop tops, and like I just felt so not worthy. I was like, I am so lowly, I'm so not it, like I'm just not it in any kind of way, so why would I go to church? And I was having all these feelings, but I still went with my friend because she's like, okay, like we're gonna go to church, and we would go to church together on Sunday in the morning. And it was really hard for me to just feel anything. I was always in my head. I was always just thinking about like, oh, like I made this mistake and this mistake and this mistake. And guys, I just want to tell you that God is just so good. God is so good. When I returned back to him, I literally told him, like, I surrendered my life to him, and I told him I literally have nothing to lose. Like, I already lost everything. I have nothing to lose, so I'm just gonna give my life to you, and I'm gonna trust you with everything. I'm gonna live the way that you need me to live, because I can't do this. I can't do it anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. So I had a constant battle with myself, and just knowing God before, and just fighting and doing life by myself, and having this resentment, having all these things, and going back to him was just, it was crazy for me. But I can tell you right now that God will save you. God will save you all the time. And in this moment in my life, I just felt like I was literally in this this huge tunnel, like this huge dark tunnel, and I was never gonna see the light. That I just kept going down. I kept sinking down more and more and more. And God met me in my sinking tunnel, and he gave me light. He gave me life. This is the most joyful, the most happiest that I've ever been in my whole entire life. And he's honestly helped me so much, just to heal, just to process, to just make me new. I gave my life to him. I got baptized, and he's made me a new creation. So everything that I was in the past, everything that I did in the past, I am no longer any of that. He's changed me inside and out. He's definitely changed my heart. He's changed my mind. He's just changed everything. I feel like, people nowadays, they don't even recognize me. They're like, what? Like, Genesis? And I'm just like, oh yeah, like, hi, and he's just changed a lot of things about me. He's given me a lot of convictions. He's given me a lot of word. I remember when I had got baptized, and when I was going to church, I really am living for him, guys. Like, I give all the glory to him. I give my life to him. He is my rock. He is my best friend. He's always taken care of me. He's just turned my life around for the better. I never thought that I'd be here talking to you guys, telling you guys about my story and things that I just went through, and I'm here to tell you guys that I have literally a relationship with all of the members of my family now. He's just working things for the better, and even though we're still going through a couple of things, we still go through certain things because my parents are still in the process of getting a divorce. We still are going through things, but God, I know that God is working. I can see his hand over everything, and I'm just trusting him with everything, and I'm living for him, and I'm obeying the word. I'm reading his word. I'm going to church. I'm helping people. I'm serving people. I'm doing all these things, and he has just blessed me beyond measures, beyond what anyone can do, beyond anything that I could even do for myself. Like, everything that I have right now is because of him. I would never be able to do anything by myself, and it's because of him. And I just wanted to share my testimony that he can turn everything, he can just make everything brand new. I am completely a different person. I no longer have mental health issues. I was really struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts, and I had a lot of anxiety. I was drinking a lot, at the point where people would literally tell me like, oh, you're just an alcoholic, and I was basically, and I was, trying to explore. I was doing drugs. I was going to clubs. I was doing all these things that were just hurting me at the end of the day. And I literally don't do any of that anymore. I don't even want to pick up a drink. I don't even want to do I don't desire any of those things. I do not desire anymore, even in my heart, in my mind. I don't want to do or be near any of that. God has really placed certain things in me. He's convicted me of a lot of things. He convicted me of the way that I do my makeup and how I show myself to people, how I represent myself to people, of the way that I dress, of the things that I do. I really just am living for him, and I'm just the happiest that I could ever be. And he has given me this light, he's giving me this platform, he's giving me all these things and all these words, and I just want to share how great God is with all of you guys, because God is super great. He can save you from anything, from your situation. If you think that you can't get out of your situation, I'm here to tell you that I'm a living testimony that he can change your situation for good. And I have lost a lot of people along the way, but God just places better things and better opportunities, and gives you a place to just I'm just in a place where I'm just healing. I'm better. I'm helping people. I am in a place where I know that he wants me. I'm doing his will, and I always ask him for him to guide me to do his will, to basically have the purpose that he has for me in my life. And every day I'm doing something. I love talking to God. I love praying. I love going to church. I love just my life, my mind, my heart, everything that I've ever wanted. I've always just wanted to help people. I've always just wanted to love people. I just have so much love for everyone, and I just want everyone to be good, to know Jesus, because Jesus is literally so super super awesome. And yeah, I just wish everyone knew him the way that I know him. And he's just done so much for me in my life. And looking back at everything that's happening in my life, I'm super grateful for every experience that I've ever had, because it was meant for a purpose. It was meant to happen. Every bad thing, every good thing was meant to happen to me, and it's just giving me much more of an understanding. And now I just have a deeper understanding of the Word of God and what he wants for our lives. And the Holy Spirit is with me. He talks to me. He talks to me. He gives me word. He gives me confidence. He gives me everything that I need. He gives me strength. He's always there when I need something, and he's just so awesome, guys. Like, I just want to tell you that anything that was meant to destroy you, because that was just the enemy literally in my ear, like letting me just slip and stuff inside me, and my own thoughts and things like that. And the enemy really had me in a chokehold, but I'm no longer that way. I'm no longer in this chokehold. I'm awakened. Like, God has really awakened me. And he's just so good. Everything that was meant to destroy you, everything that was meant to destroy me, all the evil and everything, God is just turning it for good. And I am literally a living testimony of that. Everything that I've been through has just helped me help others. And it's just, I just want to give all the glory to him. And I just want to say, if you ever want to seek God, if you ever have questions, if you ever, think that you can't get out of a situation, test God. Go seek him. Go find him. And go see what he can do for you. Because, everything that has happened in my life, I just never thought that I would be here, sitting here talking to you guys, living a good life, living the way he wants us to live, having so much love, having so much light, being just a light in this world, and helping others is just, I don't know, he gives you everything. He gives you the desires of your hearts when you obey his word, when you obey him and you do the things that he wants you to do. Life just completely changes. So that was just my testimony, the way that I grew up, the things that I was doing, and I hope that it can help you guys in some way. And I just hope that you guys find him, and seek him, because he is an awesome God. And I just, hope you guys have a great day, a great rest of your day, and God bless you guys.